a couple of seconds or a minute or so here to finish writing that down. Then we'll give you examples of all of them and go into more detail. All right. If you're still writing, continue to write. I want to start going over some of these examples. All right. Another definition I need to put in here is a line. They assume that you already know the definition of a line, okay? But I've got to cover it to make sure you know it. Okay, a line is made up of exactly 2 points. Okay? It also extends infinitely. Okay? For example, okay? That's a line. Now, obviously, we can't draw. First of all, what's infinite mean, Noah? Never ends. So obviously, we can't draw a line that never ends. Okay? Okay, I want you to go home tonight and draw a line that never ends. Well, it would never end. So that's what you'd spend the rest of your life doing, is drawing a line. Okay? So obviously, we have to show an end to the line. But you have to visually think of lines that go on forever. Okay? Now, the reason that we know this is a line is because of those 2 arrows right there. Those 2 arrows mean that this is a line. Okay? The symbol, we're going to go over a lot of symbols today. The symbol for a line is simply that, a line. So, if we were to name this line, don't do that because you'll get confused if that's a symbol. The name of this line is line AB. Okay? You could also, or line BA. Either one of those are correct. I prefer you to put them in alphabetical order, but they're both correct. Okay, that's how we would name that line. Okay, now let's continue off of that. Let's talk about array. array is a line with one end point. Okay, array is a line with one end point. Now, this one is a little confusing because some books will say since that line AB has a point, since it has a point right here, they would call that an end point and say this is ray AB or it's ray BA. Okay, I don't like referring to it that way. It is correct, but the rays that we will deal with mostly, and let me get you the symbol for array. Symbol for array is that right there. And so how we will draw rays is like this. You're not going to let me make it bigger, so I'll just cancel that one and do another one. Really? You're not going to let me do that? Holy cow. There we go, finally. Okay. Now, how you would name this, okay, would be ray CD. You could also name it as ray CD. Either one of those would be correct. Now, with the ray, you can't go ray DC. Hey, you want to join them? You can't name this one DC, okay? Because when you name array, whatever the end point is, that has to come first. Okay, so that's ray CD. All right, now, when I put two rays together, in other words, I do this, and I do this, and they share that point right there, and we'll call this XYZ. Okay? All right, now this right here is the vertex. Okay? That point right there is the vertex. This is the name of this is angle XYZ. Okay, so angle has the symbol of that right there. Make that clearer. Now, this could also be angle ZYX. Okay, but the vertex always has to be in the middle. That vertex always has to be listed in the middle of your angle. Now, what we talked about just a second ago, this in here, this is the interior of the angle. Okay, that's the interior of the angle. Okay, any question on that? All right, let's move on. let's talk about parallel lines. Okay. These are parallel lines. Okay? If they're true parallel lines, they'll never intersect each other. But remember, those lines continue on forever. Okay? So, if it's truly parallel, then the distance between those 2 points and those 2 points would be exactly the same at all times. Okay? The symbol, how we name these, is we name them line AB is parallel to line CD. Okay, that's how we name them. So the symbol for parallel, I'll go back to that. The symbol for parallel is two lines that are standing up parallel. Okay? So line AB is parallel to line CD. Yes, ma'am. Yes. If you don't put the line, I'll show you why here in a second. If you don't put the line, if you just do this, then you're just talking about 2 points. You're not talking about a line. There's another one we're fixing to cover. But yeah, you have to have, it has to be line symbol over it, or you could say line AB is parallel to line CD. You could say that. All right, now, next one is a line segment. The line segment is a line with 2 end points. And usually when we do a line segment, it looks like this. Looks like that. It doesn't have the arrows. Okay? But understand that realistically, that's a line segment right there. And that's a line segment right there. Because a point is considered an endpoint. Okay? Now, we usually don't draw them that way. We usually draw them like I've drawn this one down here. And this is how we name them. The name is line segment EF. So where the symbol for line is the 2 arrows on the line, this one is just the line itself without the arrows. Okay, once again, you could also name it line segment FE. Okay, either one would be acceptable. So the symbol for a line segment, let me go back up here to my symbol section. Is just the line over the letters. All right. Next, perpendicular. Perpendicular lines. Let's see here. I always hated this because they didn't ever give me a perpendicular one. I realize they could put any letters with these points that they want to, okay? So understand that. But here, those two lines intersect, forming 4 or 90 degrees or right angles, okay? A right angle is exactly 90 degrees. The symbol is a small square in the angle. Okay, that right there is the small square in the angle. That means it's 90 degrees. Whether it looks 90 degrees or not, if it's got the small square, it's 90 degrees. Okay, so this right here those two lines are not perpendicular. Why are they not perpendicular? They're two lines that they're lines that intersect. Why aren't they perpendicular? Emily? Correct. They're not 90 degrees. This angle right here is a lot bigger than 90 degrees. This angle right here is a lot smaller than 90 degrees. Okay? So, perpendicular. How do we name them? We name them like this. Line AB is perpendicular to line CD. Okay? This right here is the symbol for perpendicular, an upside down capital T. Understand that this could be perpendicular as well. Okay? That could be perpendicular as well. It doesn't have to go through, it can stop. In other words, it can stop right here. Okay, so that could be perpendicular as well. The key is, does it form 90-degree angles at its intersection? All right. A plane. Okay. Like a line, a plane extends forever. Okay? And realistically, I'm going to add a piece to this plane. Up here in your okay, underneath that, I'm putting that it's made up of a collection of points, but it's 3 non-collinear points. There has to be at least 3 non-collinear. Non-collinear means this: 3 points that don't fall on the same line. Okay? Non-collinear are points that don't fall on the same line. If they're collinear, that means they fall on the same line. Well, a line is not a plane. Okay, there are lines in planes, but a line is not a plane. Okay, so if you have 3 collinear points, that means they all fall on the same line. You don't have a plane. So a plane is made up of points, and it needs to have at least 3 non-collinear points. Okay, so that's the difference. In this book, I don't really like that definition of a plane. In other books, they use more of the non-collinear point definition than they do just a collection of points that form a flat, continuous, unending surface. Okay, but that's why we have these lines extending out from point P in all directions. Okay, realistically, to name your plane, the easiest way to do it, the name, just put like this one, plane P. Okay, you can use one letter to name it. You could draw the little plane box like that if you wanted to, but it's easier just to spell the word, I think. But okay. Now, let's look at some of the actual problems that you're going to be doing in this section. These will be due on Monday. They're not due tomorrow. It's not due till Monday because I want you studying for your test tomorrow. Okay. For example, number 1. Number 1 says line CD. Well, that's a tough one. You ready? Okay, everybody pay attention. Whew, that was tough. That's your answer. There's your answer. Okay. Now, vertex R, number 2. Vertex R. There's your answer. Okay. Now this one here, a lot of times people get confused a little on this one, segment PQ. Just draw a line, put 2 endpoints on it, PQ. Number 4 says line AB parallel to line BC, or CD, CD. Okay, well, we already really did one like that. Right there. So you obviously just draw the lines, and so if you're doing that one again, I'll do a smaller version of it. You just draw a line. That's not going to work. Okay, so that's all you have to do. Understand that parallel lines can be, they can be vertical like this. They can even be horizontal like this. Okay, those would all be considered parallel. Okay, now number 6 or number 5 says angle TOB. Okay. That's angle TOB. Now, this one here that says, number 8, says ray XY and ray XZ. Okay, well, that's really another way to, you can do it one of two ways. This is one way. This is what we talked about a while ago. Okay, because what they're saying is, here's your end point, and you have one that comes off this way and one that comes off that way. You could also, realistically, you could draw an angle, but that's what they're really wanting for that specific problem. What if they gave you this? They just say angle X. Well, then you do this. That would be angle X. Okay? Any questions over those? Like I said, a lot of definitions in this chapter. It would benefit you a lot if you made you some flashcards and started going over them, because there'll be, if I remember, I think there's 13 to 14 definitions on your test you take in this chapter. And like I said, you don't have to repeat them. You don't have to write out. You don't have to. I'm not going to give you like plain, and then you have to write out the definition. I'll give you a definition that says blank is made up of exactly 2 points. And so you would look over here in the words, find the line, and that would be the one that matches that definition. Okay, so it's like that. It's not like you have to, I give you the word line and you have to write out, is made up exactly of 2 points. Okay? Huh? Yeah, it's matching. With the word blank, obviously. It's really fill in the blank with a word bank. Okay? Is basically what it is. All right, your homework. Now, as I said, this is 14.1. We're going to do 1 through 21, but this is due on Monday. Okay, Monday 2-2. Tonight, study for test number 1 tomorrow. All right, you may go.
Do you want me to work out